when I first got on the Coastal Commission, one of the things that I think it's fair to say, warned about time and time again was just how much conflict there was about some of these issues and how difficult it was to get folks engaged. And what I have seen over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, really through organizations like yours with Smart Coast, a lot of the work that different representatives are doing from other community groups, it's just this renewed sense of engagement and excitement really about the possibilities of working together to solve some of these intractable issues. And I start with that truly just to say thank you, because I know your leadership team, as well as all the folks on this call, I mean, really are doing yeoman's work to make this work for our communities. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's about from the Coastal Commission staff perspective. That's what I believe in. I know that's what you believe in as well. How do we make these things work and really protect our coastal resources for everyone for generations to come? So I love that. And I always have to start there with a thank you, and a special thank you to Krista, who I have known for years now and value her friendship and wise counsel very much. So with all that said, you know, I have to admit to everyone on this call, I don't have a speech prepared, which is unlike me, but it means you're going to get the unfiltered version, I think. I'm going to say a couple of words, and then what I would really love to do is open it up to questions, because I think, you know, that's really where we can get some good dialogue going. A few things first. You probably have noticed there's some changes happening at the Coastal Commission, and that's really going to impact and guide in a lot of ways how the next couple of years work. First and foremost, we had the retirement of Jack Ainsworth and the selection of our new executive director with Dr. Kate Huckelbridge. And I truly cannot say enough good about that woman. I mean, she is an incredible resource. She has been so generous with so many project applicants, with so many commissioners trying to help us understand the practicalities of what it is that we're talking about. And that's something that I really wanted to hammer home today about Kate, Dr. Huckelbridge. She has been in a leadership position on some of the most complicated projects that we have undertaken to review at the commission in my time on that body. And her ability to see the whole board and to understand all of the various elements that come to bear on a particular project, on a particular policy, truly is unlike what I've seen from almost anyone else. And so we could not be in better hands as we move forward to talk about sea level rise and what are we actually going to put in place to help communities mitigate this issue. There couldn't be a better, more fearless leader who has had a unique set of experiences with working with diverse stakeholders. So, you know, to the extent that folks are out there wondering, like, what's this new iteration of Coastal Commission going to look like under Dr. Huckelbridge? Whatever her tenure is, it will certainly be focused on the smartest, most impactful way forward as the state of California, all of us together. I mean, that's really who she is. And so I cannot say enough good things about her. And I hope you all have the opportunity to get to know her. I know some of you are working with her via sea level rise subcommittee work, making public comments there through your work with Smart Coast. You know, you've had introductions to her, but I'm really, really excited about that. We also are in a period of transition with regard to the commissioners ourselves. Some folks have run for office and been elected, meaning that they can no longer sit on the commission. Some folks have stepped off because their tenure is over. They want to do something else. It's a big time commitment. So we're looking at a new commission in a lot of ways. Not all the seats have been filled, actually. So, you know, there's not much I can say in terms of what to expect with regard to the policy orientation of the committee and how that will change or how it might evolve. But it's going to be interesting. And anytime new colleagues come on, things shift and change. And I think there's an opportunity for all of us to really work together to educate one another about the issues that matter to us. I know that some of the things that are important to Smart Coast, you have been instrumental in helping me to understand those issues as I got up to speed on the commission. It's just work we're going to have to do for the new folks. I do know Paloma Aguirre was just appointed a couple of days ago, and she was Commissioner Padilla's alternate. So she is coming on like ready to hit the ground running. I know many of you commission watchers probably have seen her in action, and she's a brilliant woman and will be a brilliant addition to the commission. So, that's just something, I guess I would say, watch that space. We're in a period of transition. As to policy, I will say this, as ever, as with last year, as with the year before, sea level rise adaptation continues to be one of the most important topics that the Coastal Commission is undertaking to consider. That is in concert with, or being led by is maybe a better way to say it. It's being led by our sea level rise adaptation working group that includes stakeholders from various coastal communities, coastal commissioners. I was recently appointed, I guess you could say, selected by my colleagues to be one of the commission representatives to that group. And there's a lot of work that's going on at that committee. Unfortunately, because I am so new, I have not yet attended a meeting of the Sea Level Rise Working Group. I'll have to come back in a couple of months when I have a better sense of where that work stands. But it has been an ongoing committee. And really now they're at the point of trying to develop standards, trying to develop best practices that both work under the Coastal Act and work for coastal communities. So that's really the goal of this body, is what's practically possible? What can we do and actually effectuate to serve people? Because that's the goal of all of us, I think. And so I guess I would just say about that, I'll invite myself back in a couple of months when I have a little bit more to say. I know we had a retreat or a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and I saw some of you there, and it was eye-opening for me, actually. And it was really cool to see stakeholders who often feel themselves to be in some ways oppositional at the same table, talking through, hey, here are our concerns, here's how we want to move forward. And I think those are the kinds of conversations, difficult though they may be, and though they don't always come to some clear conclusion, and I don't know that we made any sort of monumental shifts out of that workshop, but that's how we move the ball forward and iterate towards solutions that work for everyone. So that was a lot of politics speak for you, really, as a way just to say that I'm still learning. And I will be back to tell you more. And I would love to have input from all of you about how to best use that Sea Level Rise Working Group to bring your concerns, whether it's to the commission, to commission staff. I mean, that's my job as an elected representative on the commission, is to be a conduit to communicate the needs and concerns of constituents in the state of California. So I'm always here to do that, and grateful for the input that you all give me and the Sea Level Rise Working Group and the commission as a whole. So with that, a much longer introduction that I anticipated making, I would love if anyone has any questions about commission business or how things go, lay them on me.
So Megan, we did have a question, and it really has to do with these recent storms and kind of everything that is going on with it and what's happening to the beaches and everything else. And is there any sort of, I mean, I kind of hesitate to use the word leniency, but let's say, is there some flexibility that the Coastal Commission is giving folks in order to shore up beaches or homes or businesses, things of that nature?
I don't know that I would say flexibility or leniency is really given or not given. I think the truth of the matter is the commission staff, commissioners themselves, understand how vital it is for us to ensure that our communities are safe. So, you know, I don't know that you can really frame it like you could do it today and you couldn't do it yesterday. I think the approach has always been where there are emergency actions that are necessary to protect our coast, to preserve our access, to make sure that people on the coast can be safe. I have continuously seen the commission engage in those matters. Now, we're seeing it more now, right? Because the storms are really highlighting some of the challenges that our coastal communities have vis-a-vis erosion, sea level rise, the needs to adapt to sea level rise. So those conversations are happening more regularly, at least than I saw 2 years ago, and I think with a greater degree of urgency. But that's one of the things I guess circling back to what has surprised me in the last 2 years, you know, Coastal Commission staff and the Coastal Commission in general, I believe, our goal, of course, is to uphold the Coastal Act first and foremost. That's what we're charged with doing. But part of that is ensuring that people can have access to their coast. And part of that is making sure that it's safe. So, you know, that conversation can always happen, will always happen. And I think is probably what you're seeing is just happening more because we haven't had a series of storms like these in recent memory, certainly not since I have been on the commission. But I am pleased to see the engagement that's happening between communities who have emergency needs and the Coastal Commission staff and coastal commissioners. There's been, I think, a real sense on all sides that protecting our coast is key, and making sure that people are safe and working toward a resolution to whatever the issue may be that works for all parties.
Great, thank you. Kind of shifting a little bit. Let's go to staff. As we know, kind of everywhere, staffing is an issue. And so what about how is funding for staffing of the Coastal Commission happening? Is the governor and legislature kind of reacting to the staffing problem? Are they saying, yeah, we're totally going to help? Or are they saying, figure it out yourself? Or kind of where are we on that? Because we have a lot that we need to do. We need the staff for it. And it seems like we just don't.
Amen to that, sister. You were right to say that the staffing issues are happening at every level of government. I know folks who are in municipal government in particular, I'm looking at Paul nodding his head. Yes, we are having the same issue in the city of Santa Barbara. So it's not unique, right? I mean, it's hard, but the Coastal Commission staffing issues are as difficult and challenging as I have seen, or certainly equal to the challenges, if not greater than the challenges that I see in my own city. There is just not enough resources to do the amount of work that we ask our Coastal Commission staff to do. They are an incredible, truly incredible group of folks. Some of the smartest people I have ever met are on our Coastal Commission staff. And there's just not enough hours in the day to process the permits it isn't there. So what are we doing? Yeah, I mean, we've got a team of commissioners who are lobbying in Sacramento. Unfortunately, we haven't had much success of late. I haven't gotten an update as to where things stand right now. As of a couple of weeks ago, it was looking rough. I think across the board, belts are tightening. And unfortunately, we were in a position where we already had a need for more staff, and belts are tightening a little bit further. So I have every confidence in our staff to be able to make it work. However, one of the challenges, and I think what we're trying to communicate to decision makers with regard to budgetary issues in particular, is the Coastal Commission, we already struggle to serve applicants, to serve municipalities and communities in a time frame that works for them and their projects. Not because we are intractable, not because we try to slow things down, but truly at this point, simply because we just don't have the people to do the processing. So to the extent that we want reverse some of that reputational damage, to the extent that we want people to start seeing Coastal Commission for what it is, what I believe it is, which is an incredible asset for the state of California that truly works to protect what is one of our greatest gifts in this state, the coastline. We've got to fund it as such. And the more that we cut the Coastal Commission funding, the longer these things are going to take, the more difficult it becomes to kind of build trust between communities and the Coastal Commission, to build trust between applicants and the Coastal Commission. And I know that's what everyone from the Coastal Commission side wants to do, but there is unfortunately just a limit to the number of hours in the day. So as far as I know, and bracketing this saying I'm not involved in the lobbying team in Sacramento, so it's possible that things are looking better or different. As far as I know, it's tough. It's really tough, and acknowledging it's tough for everybody, but it's one of those things where I would add, just I guess as a plea, even folks who are not known to love the work of the Coastal Commission or who complain about the Coastal Commission, one issue that we can all agree on is that if we get more staffers, it's gonna be better. You know, we're gonna go faster. We'll have more people to do the processing, and that is something we can all agree on. And so if you lobby your legislators, and if you say, hey, you know, my permit, my application shouldn't take 9 months, it should only take 3 months, but it has to take 9. Hey, state senator, hey, you know, state assembly member, can you please put a little extra money in there for the Coastal Commission staff? It would be hugely helpful. So I always make that pitch. If timing is something you care about and are concerned about, please help us lobby to get more staff. And then there's also, as we all know, just in general, a dearth of employees. So, you know, we're competing for the best and brightest minds, and that's what we look for. And that's what we have on the Coastal Commission staff. So it's kind of one of those things, but we see it everywhere. All of that said, and I'll close with this, I cannot emphasize enough how much faith I have in the Coastal Commission staff, from Dr. Hucklebridge on down. And one thing that has been continuously gratifying to me as a decision maker on that body is just the level of expertise that those folks have. And the conversations are hard. Sometimes the decisions aren't always what everybody would like. I hear that. I know it's complicated, but there's some of the best and brightest minds, and they have a heart for our coast and a heart for making these policies work for you. So I appreciate them and always want to shout them out where I can, and let's get more of them.
Do you have time for maybe another couple questions, or do you have, I know you have a hard stop, so.
10:30. We've got 7 minutes. I'll try to talk a little less so we can.
So another question that we have is, and I'm going to save this one, I think, for the end, which is what can we as Smart Coast do to help you? But I think that another one of our questions that came through, we have a lot of timing questions, things about applications, how long it's going to take. I think we just heard from you a while. And I don't think that there is any specific time that we can really put on anything because of not only staffing, but just because of all kind of the hurdles and hoops that we have to go through. But one of the questions is that if local coastal programs are truly local, why isn't the Coastal Commission honoring what the local communities needs, like infrastructure hardening or soft solutions, nature-based solutions, maybe being able to move something, bring in something, anything of that nature? Why is it that the Coastal Commission, if it's not affecting specifically, you know, access for the public and things like that, why isn't it just being local and the Coastal Commission going with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question, and one that's definitely up for debate depending on one's perspective, right? It's very perspectival. I would say, right, the Coastal Commission's job and role is to view everything that comes before us through the lens of the Coastal Act. So to the extent that we see in some way that there's some element of a plan that is not in compliance with guidance that was developed vis-a-vis that act, it is our job actually to say, hey, look, this piece doesn't comply. So, look, reasonable minds can certainly disagree about whether something complies with any law or doesn't, but our job is to interpret that law and to make decisions as to whether or not these local coastal plans comply or don't comply with it. So I hear you. I mean, yes, there is an element where like local communities do need to be given the space to put together a plan that works for them. But that doesn't exist in a vacuum, because our job as a commission is to balance that local plan with what we understand to be the structures vis-a-vis the Coastal Act, which is the law that we are tasked with enforcing and more importantly, giving life in local communities. So, it's always a balance is really the answer. And I will acknowledge, as I think Coastal Commission staff would, and my colleagues, is we don't always get the balance 100% correct. And that's why it's so important that we continue to work together, whether it's at the sea level rise subcommittee level, whether it's you all coming to me or other commissioners for ex partes. I mean, that's critical in my mind to helping get that balance right. But to the heart of your question, like, why don't we always just approve local coastal plans? Well, because we don't believe those plans do comply with the Coastal Act. And that's where the negotiation and the thinking about best available science and how do we marry that with what's feasible for local communities is just the key question, and really the core question of the work that we deal with on the commission, full stop, in my mind. And it's one of the great challenges of being an elected representative on that body, because I'm constantly thinking with my city council member hat on, like, what would I be able to do were this my community? And then I'm tasked and have taken an oath to always uphold the Coastal Act. And so figuring out how to marry those two is a great challenge, but it's also one of the gifts of this commission, is that different perspectives have the opportunity to come to the table and have those conversations. And I'm confident, especially moving into this next year, there's been a real renewed emphasis on our sea level rise working group and getting all the stakeholders to the table, whether we're talking about adaptation plans or whether we're talking about infrastructure needs. And I'm seeing that play out. Change doesn't happen overnight, but I'm seeing folks really, really saying we need to figure out steps forward for our communities rather than, putting down the hammer and saying conversation's over. So that's a long answer, but I think it's all a balance is really what I'd say.
Great. Well, Meagan, I think that there's a lot more questions.
You guys can email me anytime.
and I think that we will definitely take you up on your offer of coming back again and having some more of a discussion with our group. And so I think that we're going to be able to kind of finish up with what is it that we can do to help the commission, where can we go, right? And how can we move forward together? Like you said, there's always going to be those points of contention. I mean, I'm seeing the chats come in with various things on, guidance and with, working together and things of that nature. But yeah, if you could just kind of finish out your 2 minutes and then we'll let you move on your day.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I mean it. Next time, ask me back in 2 or 3 months and we can focus on neighborhood level adaptation or something really substantive. I'll make sure to do my homework for you guys at those meetings so that we can dig into the substance of that issue. But I have to say, I said this when I got on the commission, and I cannot emphasize enough how true it has been for me over the last couple of years. please, please, if you have a strong feeling about any matter before us, request an ex parte. I cannot speak for my colleagues. I know not everyone feels the way that I do about that, and I certainly respect my colleagues' decisions. For me, it has been critical to my understanding of the issues that face all of you vis-a-vis the Coastal Act, vis-a-vis the Coastal Commission, to be able to have conversations in a more extended format. As you all know, when these issues come before the commission in the public hearing, it's 3 minutes, it's public comment, it's quick, it goes fast, it's impossible. I personally have found it impossible to understand the real nuance of what you all are facing and what you all need for your communities without those ex partes. And I found actually that some people have shared with me they don't even bother asking anymore because they just feel like it's not going to be well received, or they don't want to bother, they'll be told no. And, you know, I can't always make an ex parte. Sometimes it doesn't work. I have a couple of other jobs, but I personally will make every effort to do it, because I have found that my learning is so much deeper and so much broader by having those conversations. And frankly, there are things that I just won't know if you don't tell me. And I know it's a huge effort, but it's true. You know, I don't know what's happening in Malibu the way I know what's happening in Santa Barbara if you don't do that ex parte. So I would ask, in terms of how to support my own work on the commission, how to support our shared goals of preserving the coast in a way that works for our local communities, the number one thing is that ex parte, because that's where I can get details from you about your perspective that I just can't get in a couple of minutes at public comment. And I know it's a lot to ask from everybody, but for me, it's been critical, and I would ask, please, that you continue to do so, because it's hugely valuable, and I so appreciate hearing from all of you.
And they just email you at meagan.harmon@coastal.ca.gov, correct?
Yes, correct. Okay. You can also just Google my name, any of my email addresses. I have too many now, frankly, will get to me, but my Coastal email address is great. That's where it'll always end up. And just say I want an ex parte, and we'll go from there. Of course, I have to report our conversation, so you all know that. You've heard us or read our ex partes and all that. So I would recommend being aware that it's all on the record, but still just hugely valuable for me. And I know that it takes time out of your schedules as well, but that's the best way for me to understand what the needs are of project applicants and local communities. And please keep doing it, because it means the world to me.
Paul?
I just want to thank you very much for taking the time to be with us, and you're 2 minutes late for wherever you're going. So
everyone expects me to be late these days. So the fact that it's only 2 minutes, I think, is like I'm doing well for a Wednesday.
And we will be requesting an ex parte in Malibu. Thank you.
I love it. Well, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Okay. Well, we can all be grateful for that. I can't recall a time when a coastal commissioner invited us to contact them for ex partes. So that is pretty darn good.
Yes,
so
thank you, Paul.
Can we pop up the PowerPoint again?
Please. Okay, it's time for us to introduce your current board of directors. I am the current president, and we're followed immediately by Erin Berry, who's doing a heck of a job with and Erin, I'm sure you'll wave to us, but Erin's doing a terrific job as far as her work on our summit and things like that. And she is a ball of energy, and I can't speak highly enough about her. Raina Stapleman, are you there? Well, I'm sure that other people can see her. She's our treasurer, and hopefully you're all out there raising money, so she'll have a lot to do, because we need a treasurer and we need more treasure. Katie Beacock is our secretary, and Katie is very active and very sensible if you're on a call with her. and I can't speak highly enough about her. Our immediate past president is Joe Prion, who is working diligently for us, and we're not going to let him go. He's going to be running a secondary group to keep smart, committed people involved at the highest levels. From McKinley, we have Elizabeth Campbell Chase, who I have not met yet, and I'm looking forward to it. In my general area, Susan Carney from South Bay is on here. We also have the very active gentleman, Drew Lanza, who's working hard to get us into every homeowners association out there. And we do have a program for your homeowners associations to join, thanks to him. And we're reaching out to make a big community out of this. So Rosemarie McNair is with us from Santa Cruz, and she's been, and Valerie Michigan, and they've been very involved with what's going on up there and in Capitola. And they have a lot of good feedback for us about how things are going right now. And then we also have Judy Taylor, who's working diligently with us. She's in San Mateo, very concerned about what's going on with Half Moon Bay. And the experience they're having there is, of course, applicable to all of us as well. And now I get to welcome our new Chief Executive Officer. I'm sure that most of you have heard, but Marta and Krista, who have been our volunteers who put this together, came up with the idea in the first place, have been working for us diligently without compensation for close to 4 years. Marta has now accepted our offer of employment as the Chief Executive Officer. She will be a full-time employee, and we're happy to have Marta join Smart Coast in this new capacity. Please help me welcome Marta. So, I don't know, do you want to say anything to us, Marta?
I just want to say thank you, and I'm excited for the opportunity to be here in this capacity, and hopefully we can move Smart Coast, continue to move it forward and with leaps and bounds this year and in the years to come. Thank you all for your vote of confidence. Appreciate it.
Terrific. Okay. Okay. We have, who's going to do the policies? Is that me or? Yes,
I can do them if you'd like. This is just more of a refresher. We just throw this up at each of our stakeholder meetings to make sure that everyone understands what Smart Coast supports and our policies. We have these as written policies of the organization, and you can see them here. We aren't going to go into them in depth. They are on our website. They are part of the basis of Smart Coast California, and we just always want to keep this in the forefront anytime we hold meetings and host guests. So we can continue on. If there are any questions, please reach out to us. Our website is here listed at the top. You'll see it, and there's a contact us and email. So please feel free to do that in the future. Next.
And we have a new priority coming up, which is the neighborhood level solutions. And so we're going to be adding that on. So what did we do in 2022?
Oh, did you want to
take it away,
okay.
Krista, please?
So every year we just kind of like to be able to give you a quick little snapshot of what it is that we did the previous year. It's always important to know that the organizations that you're part of really are doing something, right? And being able to show you those things. And so we had provided support materials, chatted with local staff, monitored sea level rising plan activities for 41 various jurisdictions. We submitted content regarding local coastal program amendments or sea level rise documents. We did 13 of those. We collaborated very closely on 4 of those documents, and we held 2 virtual regional summits. In addition, we also have exciting news. We're a 501c3. So if you are looking to give money out, please consider us. It's tax deductible. As Commissioner Harmon mentioned, we are a major stakeholder at the Coastal Commission Sea Level Rise Neighborhood Scale Workshop. Try to say that in one breath. And it was a very good meeting. Don will actually be talking about that in his update. We had our inaugural policy summit with over 150 participants last year. We had some fantastic information. Put it on your radar that we have more for next year, or I should say this year, coming up May 18th and 19th for our policy summit. We're looking forward to it. Have some fantastic speakers that we're going to be bringing in. We participated in the California League of Cities, their conference and expo. We have very good communication with Coastal Commission staff and commissioners. As you saw, this was the first time we ever got a Coastal Commissioner to come to our stakeholder meeting. And we were actually referenced in a policy document for resilient Imperial Beach, Smart Coast itself. So these are just a few little things that we wanted to bring to your attention. We are working on doing some more regional virtual summits. We are doing those very strategically on plans that are coming up. And we are also going to be supporting some LCPA efforts coming up this year. So be prepared for a very busy year. Yet again, we're a 501c3. And with that, Paul, turn it back over to you to introduce Don.
Many of you know Don Schmitz, who has been our lead coastal planning consultant since we started out. Don has a checkered history that includes beginning his career as a staffer at the Coastal Commission. I've known Don for over 30 years, so I apologize for giving him a poke in the ribs occasionally. Don is a tremendously smart guy. He has a great company with a lot of smart people working for him, and he is well known to everybody at the Coastal Commission. And Don, please take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Audio check. Am I working? Okay, great.
Yep,
so thank you for, excuse me, thank you for that introduction, Paul, and including the ribbing, and I deserve it. But it's part of the fun. I just want to cue things up by saying that there's a lot that's been happening with Smart Coast California. We're going to be talking about what's most recent history and where we're going this year. There's a lot more, and Krista did touch base on part of that. And a lot of it is very out there, forward, working with the press, holding forums, but we're in the trenches in a tremendous, to a tremendous degree as well. And one of the most recent things that we're very excited about is we were participants in the local government sea level rise working group's inaugural neighborhood scale adaptation workshop. Now you need to understand a little bit of context in regards to what the working group is. It's a collaboration between the Association of Counties, the California League of Cities, and the ad hoc committee of the Coastal Commission itself. And it's to try and work collaboratively as it pertains to bringing these local coastal programs forward to address sea level rise. Smart Coast California was invited to sit at the table and be an integral part of that conversation. And we're very proud of that fact. And I think that's resulting from an acknowledgement that we've become very much involved. We're working with all the cities, all the counties, and that we are not just naysayers. We're proactively looking for solutions here to deal with sea level rise. And so essentially our role was to try and bridge some of the gaps between the cities and the counties. So at this day-long event, which was held in Santa Barbara, we reviewed the areas of where there was agreement, where there was disagreements, key questions for phase approaches, which is something that as an organization we promoted for quite a while, and local neighborhood level approaches to dealing with sea level rise. So it's not a one size fits all. We talked about the opportunities and challenges of doing that. And this was attended by supervisors, mayors, council members, and support staff. And the reason we got this picture up here of Santa Cruz is because that's one of the first communities that's looked at a neighborhood level approach, that they're not going to do manage, retreat, and lose an important component of their community. And so they were trying to come up for solutions to that. I could do a whole presentation on this, but we've got more ground to cover. So why don't we go ahead to the next slide, please. So one of the things that we've been monitoring on, we did not officially as an organization weigh in on this, but we did watch it, which was the Casa Mira Homeowners Association versus the California Coastal Commission. This was over denial of the right to build a seawall to protect existing development. So this lawsuit is in progress. We've got a tentative ruling. And the most important aspect of this is addressing the definition of existing development. Next slide, please. This is so important because the Coastal Act itself specifies under section 30235 of the Coastal Act that you are legally entitled to shoreline protection devices to protect your property if you have an existing structure on it. And one of the things that we've been very, very, very involved with the entities all up and down the state is this controversy, because of the last 10 years or so, the Coastal Commission has started to take a position that existing development meant development that was existing when the Coastal Act was adopted in 1977. They walked back a previous position that they took in court, by the way, in the early 2000s, saying what the rest of us believed to be the case, which was that existing means existing. If there's a house or a commercial building there, it's existing unless it was deed restricted, that it should not be precluded from having a shoreline protection device if it was necessary. And this was really a critical aspect of whether or not the Coastal Commission was going to compel local cities to have managed retreat within neighborhood areas where these neighborhoods would be sacrificial. They would have to be allowed to be taken by the sea. Next slide. So we have a tentative ruling in regards to this. This is just one excerpt. And in that tentative ruling, the court has found on behalf of the plaintiffs, the Casa Mira Homeowners Association, and the court found that the statute's unambiguous, the one that we just showed you, section 30235, and the disputed terms are used and to be interpreted in their ordinary, general, common sense meaning. This was very refreshing to us because we've been promoting this in many different venues. They went on to the court, not they, went on to specify, look, Coastal Commission, you've been applying deed restrictions on new development to make sure that they couldn't argue that they have this. There was a lot of different things which we have been putting forward, and this is particularly gratifying to us because there was very strong sentiment by some of the coastal commissioners and some of the staff in the opposite direction. So we'll be monitoring this, and we will advise you whether or not this becomes something which goes up on appeal. Next slide. There has been some changes at the Coastal Commission. Dr. Kate Hucklebridge, who is truly a very impressive person, and we're looking forward to working with her more. And Meagan already gave you a little overview in regards to who she is. And in fact, I believe that we're going to be meeting with her shortly. And the Smart Coast California organization has made a habit of meeting with the executive director and their key staff every couple of months, and we're going to be keeping that going forward. It's been very effective for us to assist, again, to bridge the gap should it exist between some of the local jurisdictions and the Coastal Commission. There's been a number of jurisdictions which have stalled out in regards to, and this is their words, feedback that they've given us, awaiting feedback and action from the Coastal Commission, Avalon, Carlsbad, Goleta, Manhattan Beach, Oceanside, Pacifica, Imperial Beach, who now has a coastal council member who's a coastal commissioner, as you just heard, which is actually pretty exciting. And Eureka, and both Imperial Beach and Eureka are proceeding without official commission staff review of their draft document. And yes, the Coastal Commission staff is trying to hire additional, as the Coastal Commission organization is trying to hire additional staff to address the backlog. Next slide. So I'm going to give you updates from a number of the different jurisdictions. Again, this is just a smattering of who we're dealing with. As an organization, we are talking to literally every single city and county in the state of California that is updating their local coastal program. We're reviewing their documents. We're giving substantive feedback, and we're assisting them where appropriate. Next slide, please. So the city of Avalon, they've got their own staffing shortages as it pertains to their local coastal program amendment process. They are currently awaiting the Coastal Commission's second round of comments. I did meet with Mayor Annie Marshall at the League of Cities and talked about this. They're very interested in Smart Coast California providing what assistance that we can, and they are anticipating publishing their draft local coastal program sometime in the next couple of months this spring. Next slide. Next, we have Imperial Beach. Their draft local coastal program amendment is still in public review and revision phase. We submitted comments back in 2022. We've had conversations with their planning director in regards to that LCPA, what support that we can give. We've been talking about having one of our regional summits down there, which seems to be well received by staff. Of course, we're going to vet that with some of the key council members. We're also very gratified that in one of their working documents for the local coastal program amendment, they actually reference one of our presentations and positions that we've taken in regards to tiered response, us being Smart Coast California. So as an organization, we've somewhat arrived in regards to being a reference point for some of these conversations. Next slide, please. So next we have Laguna Beach, which has published a targeted local coastal program amendment to deal with bluff top development. And this is not the overall local coastal program amendment to deal with sea level rise. It's an overlay for their bluff areas. And those of you familiar with Laguna Beach know they've got a tremendous amount of bluffs within that community. And they're blessed, unlike, say, some of the communities up north, which have very soft bluffs. They have very hard rock. So we met with them. Met with their planning director, Mr. Weiner. Their overlay district is going to be coming before the city council on March 7th. I believe that Smart Coast California intends to testify in support of this. The gist of it, for your edification, is that basically there's standard bluff top setbacks which different communities adopt, but this bluff top overlay in Laguna Beach will basically prescribe that should there be a site-specific geotechnical analysis that can support a reduced bluff edge setback, that will be what will be applied by the local jurisdiction. Next slide, please. Next, we have Manhattan Beach. The LCPA was adopted by the council in May of 2022, submitted to the California Coastal Commission. The Coastal Commission has extended its action deadline. What does that mean? Pursuant to statute, they only have a couple months that they're supposed to review these local coastal program amendments. And routinely, like virtually almost every time, they grant themselves an additional year for the review. And that was done here in Manhattan Beach to give themselves additional time to review the proposed LCPA. So we're expecting that this gets heard sometime in the end of this year. It's a pretty favorable LCPA in our perspective. They have goals to preserve their wide sandy beaches, which we're very much keen on. But they're also want to preserve their neighborhoods, and they do actually have a dune restoration project currently underway to stabilize the Upland Beach area, fronting the bike path and walkways through Manhattan Beach. I believe my staff has put a photograph of that here in the presentation. So they're very active, and we're looking forward to supporting them going forward. Next slide. Next, we have Marin County. The county published the draft safety element of their LCPA in December. We did submit comments, and it's a lot of work, but that's an ongoing effort here. We have been submitting written comments where appropriate and making suggestions on what should be done. The Board of Supervisors adopted in January, just last month, the LCPA, and the next step is of course, the Coastal Commission certification, which is this aforementioned submittal to the Coastal Commission for a hearing and to see if the Coastal Commission will accept it or whether or not they will want suggested modifications. Next slide, please. Also, very important is the Stinson Beach Adaptation Resilience Collaboration, also known as ARC. We've got a lot of acronyms in this business. This is in progress through 2025. It has goals and policies and regulations to address short, medium, and long-term issues, which is something that has been very important to the board and the organization of Smart Coast California, which is tiered responses. Let's see what actually happens. Let's not rely just on the projections and the models, but let's see what Mother Nature actually throws at us. And so actions are to be based on triggers. Again, it is in progress, and so they're developing adaptation pathways for this very important beach. It's an important beach because of the fact that there is a tremendously valuable real estate in that area that is at risk, and it is a low-lying development, which is pursuant to the vulnerability assessment that was done for the area, is at risk to sea level rise. Next slide, please. So the city of Santa Cruz is working on updates. The city actually did submit a working document for their local coastal program amendments to the Coastal Commission. They got a lot of feedback, a very strong, broad feedback, and this is coming directly from the city staff in their interactions and meetings with us. And they feel that the feedback was very broad, sweeping, but unclear in regards to what sort of modifications that the city should incorporate. Not certain whether or not they've been able to gain additional clarity with supplemental and sequential meetings with the Coastal Commission staff, but we do know that they are having they are anticipating publishing the revised draft document in just the next couple months in this spring. Next slide, which is the County of Santa Cruz and the updates. This was a pretty good local coastal program amendment, and they just ran out of time. It was denied by the Coastal Commission on October 14th. Our president, Mr. Paul Grisanti, and I went down to San Diego. We testified in support of them. Basically, the Coastal Commission ran out of time. There was some finger pointing going on. The county was saying that the Coastal Commission was unresponsive. The Coastal Commission was saying that the county was unresponsive. And so the board of directors voted not to withdraw and reapply to grant more time. So they were forcing the commission's hand to basically try and get some more substantive feedback in regards to what would work. I thought that the hearing was a little disappointing, frankly, that there could be more specificity in the presentations by the county so that they could narrow it down. But they did get a lot of feedback from the Coastal Commission. And one of the things that is really very, very, very important about this particular local coastal program is this concept of having the neighborhood level seawall exclusion area from Sokol Point on down to the city boundary, which is somewhat of a revolutionary concept that is taking hold. There's probably around a dozen communities which are now proposing similar things within their local coastal program amendment. This was a topic of some discussion at the working group. They have to be done right. And there's other options for neighborhoods such as artificial reefs, living breakwaters, very aggressive beach nourishment programs. We want to be as soft as possible and retain as much of the beaches and the natural environment as possible. So stay tuned on this. A lot happening in Santa Cruz County. Next slide. So the Seal Beach, they're working on it. Not a whole lot more for us to tell you about that, except they're going to be publishing the draft in spring of 2023, and we've not been given a copy of that. Next slide. Ventura County's working away. Their coastal hazards local coastal program amendment is in progress. and they're working closely with the Coastal Commission staff, and they are considering a neighborhood scale adaptation strategy for existing communities, e.g. Free Beach and others, which is something that Smart Coast California is very supportive of, and we're going to be watching that very closely. And then the last slide, so that I don't run too long and get in trouble with the managers here, is our Coastal Planner Compendium. And this has been a tremendous amount of work, and it's pretty much done. I'm going to just tell you basically what the gist of it is. As we have been constructively engaged with planning directors and decision makers in the counties and the cities up and down the state of California, we get asked a lot of the same questions. We get asked what our positions are, perhaps advice, and what other people are doing. And so Smart Coast has invested heavily in creating this planner compendium that will be distributed and available to the local level jurisdictions. It'll keep them apprised of the status of statewide of all the local coastal program amendments, which are designed to address sea level rise. We'll talk about the jurisdictional status, the projections for the sea level rise, which is not necessarily as settled science as some would try to convey to you. There's a lot of discussions about this, both at the federal level and the state and local level. We're going to be including the Millman key findings, which is just very granular, if you can use that expression when you're talking about beaches and communities, but very, very detailed. And certainly we've got a lot of smart people on this call that can explain the Millman studies and future studies, which we're hoping that local jurisdictions bring them on board to do. We're going to be, this is very important, we're going to be passing along with our compendium what other jurisdictions are doing for their adopted adaptation policies. We really like the nature-based solutions. We think that armoring is a last resort, but there's also very effective solutions which are not armoring, and we're promoting those. The tiered responses and how that pertains to managed retreat, I've already discussed. And by the way, as an organization in open rural areas or places where there is room to retreat back, Smart Coast California is taking a position in support of that managed retreat. The definition of existing structures was a big part of my earlier conversation. Provisions for just compensation, very important. And some jurisdictions have already adopted that into their local coastal program, which is basically, should the government adopt regulations which precludes people from defending their property and damages or destroys their property, they have to have built into their system a means to pay the property owners for the damage or destruction of that private property for the public benefit. Morro Bay is a perfect example. They have that explicit policy in their adopted local coastal program. We're doing a collaborative for local government sea level rise working group activity because we are going to stay very involved with that. We're going to make sure that those findings are distributed to local jurisdictions. And we're going to, in summation, we're going to continue to work on these neighborhood scale adaptation, such as artificial reefs and reinforced beach nourishment and living breakwaters, things of that nature, and how geologic hazard abatement districts can be formed. This is what was proposed by the County of Santa Cruz, where basically this is a quasi-government entity that the local neighborhood puts together with the support of the Board of Supervisors and the City Council for funding and processing applications. It allows them to do a more holistic approach on these matters as opposed to what an individual property owner can do, and without putting the onus entirely on the government, the county, and the city. So with that, I will go ahead, I will wrap it up. I thank you very much.